Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. We are so excited to have you all join us this evening for our high school info session. Just a quick note, we are recording this presentation for those who can't attend. So a big hello to those who are watching this recording back remotely. It's so nice to see you all. Hi. Hello, Jody. Hello, AJ. Hello, Brett. Hello, Minna. Nice to see you all. Wonderful. Well, let's go ahead and get started. Eric's gonna screen share for us in just a second, and then we'll get rolling. Thanks for attending after school. We appreciate it. We will stick to our schedule of keeping this to 1 hour today. So we're starting now and ending at 5 o'clock this evening. So thanks again for giving us an hour of your very busy time to talk about high school programs for this new academic year with the World Affairs Council of Philadelphia. Go ahead and advance the next slide, Eric. I'd love to just take a second to introduce the education team. I'm Kristen Hutchinson, Vice President of Education for the World Affairs Council. I'm joined tonight by my colleagues, Eric Bumbaka, Director of Student Programs, and Casey Trapp, Associate Director of Student Programs. We're also joined today by our Vice President of Programs, Haley Boyle. She'll actually introduce herself to you all a little bit later as well. I'd love to kind of get a sense of who is here as well. So go ahead and drop in the chat your name, your school, and let us know how long you've been a faculty advisor. Maybe this is your first year joining the World Affairs Council, or maybe you are returning to be a faculty advisor for a second year or a third year. We'd love to kind of just get a sense who's in the room, what schools you all represent before we get started. So I'll give you a second to do that. We've got some answers coming through. Wow, Minna, faculty advisor since 2009. Amazing. That is, I don't think I actually knew that. That's fantastic. Jack Brack, Hebrew Academy is in the house this evening. Nice to see you guys. And I'll let the rest of you all go ahead and continue to introduce yourselves in the chat while we go ahead and get started. Once again, welcome to all of our faculty advisors that are joining us live for our info session and those who are watching our recording back remotely. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and kick us off today with our introduction. We do wanna kind of set the stage in terms of who we are as an organization before we dive into the programs that we have for your high school students and your schools this year. So just a little bit about the World Affairs Council. We are a nonpartisan international affairs experience provider with over 70 years of experience in connecting the greater Philadelphia region to our world. We'll talk a little bit about our geographic reach in a little bit as well. In terms of what we provide authentic, meaningful learning experiences for teachers and students, also adults, and make critical international affairs topics accessible to people of all ages, whether you are a middle school student joining us for our Model UN programs, a high school student joining us for our simulation programs, or an adult, we make these topics accessible to all political beliefs and backgrounds as well. And we help the community to understand the world around us. And we know that understanding international affairs, current events, and employing cultural diplomacy is more important now than ever in order to strengthen our region, our economy, promote civic engagement, and prepare the next generation of leaders, our students that we work with, to be both college and career ready. And we definitely invite the greater Philadelphia educational community, including all of your schools and institutions, to grow their knowledge of the world through school membership, which we'll talk about in just a second, the educational experiences that we provide, and a wide-ranging portfolio of events and programming that we'll go into detail about this evening. Go ahead and advance to the next slide, Eric. So I do want to just mention, when we talk about the World Affairs Council and the work that we do, we like to say that we have three main pillars of operations, and we call these the 3 T's: talk, travel, and teach. Now, if you are a faculty advisor who is returning to do programs again this year, you might be very familiar with 2 out of the 3, but maybe not all of them. And if you're brand new to the World Affairs Council, you might not know much about any of these. So let me kind of go into them. In terms of talk, I mentioned, the ethos of the World Affairs Council is that we're nonpartisan and that we encourage civil discourse. In terms of our speaker programs, which we're very well known for. We've hosted over 5,000 speakers to date. My colleague Haley, when she talks a little bit about programs, is going to talk a little bit about this as well in terms of the wide range of speakers that we've had approach our podium. And we offer more than 25 in-person and virtual events annually. So there's lots of opportunities for you and your students to get connected to the Council's speaker events and programs. We also have a travel department of which we partner with 30 councils across the United States. I'm not sure how many of you know, but the World Affairs Council of Philadelphia is one World Affairs Council that's under the World Affairs Councils of America. And there's about 30 or so councils that are in different states and cities across the United States. Is there a box on your screen, Eric, that you can close out of? I'm just curious. Yeah. Perfect, thank you very much. In terms of our travel program as well, we offer tours that are made to all 7 continents of the world. And we offer off the beaten path views and briefings. So that whole ethos of us being nonpartisan and encouraging civil discourse is something that we weave through all of our pillars of operations, speaker programs, and travel included. And of course, why we're here tonight is Teach. We serve 85 middle and high schools, which are roughly accumulate to about 2,500 students across the region annually. This doesn't just include Philadelphia, it's also the suburbs of Philadelphia, also South Jersey. And what we saw last year with our virtual programming, we had students connecting with us from as far as Florida, Georgia, and other states as well. And our schools are very diverse. We work with public schools, private schools, charter schools, parochial, independent schools, and homeschools. And a very key part of our educational history is that in 1981, 40 years ago, we began the Bodine High School for International Affairs, and we co-sponsored it with the School District of Philadelphia. So definitely a highlight in terms of our educational legacy. Go ahead and go to the next slide, Eric. So now I'll continue to talk a little bit about Teach and what we do and what we've done in the last year and what we are set to look forward to in this new academic year. So we're proud to report that last year, over 50% of our students that we served were Black, Indigenous, or people of color. We began an innovative new partnership with an organization called iThrive Games Foundation. They really specialize in gamifying learning and simulation experiences. We'll talk a little bit about iThrive and offer a little preview into one of their scenarios a little bit later. Believe it or not, we facilitated nearly 40 virtual global education days. Oh my goodness, so many program days because we had to run things virtual last year, hosting students, hundreds of students on a single day, which we would have done prior to the pandemic, was just not possible in the virtual landscape. So we multiplied the amount of days we had to offer for programs. And as such, we actually accumulated over 30,000 learning hours. And that's a combination of students spending time preparing for our programs, participating in our programs as well. And then we're proud to also report that we studied 12 different global and national issues last year. We assigned students to represent over 60 different countries, and we worked with over 30 external partners as well. And we're so grateful for our partners who help us to make our programs as great as they are. And then in terms of this year that's coming up, some initiatives and milestones to report on. We're continuing our partnership with the iThrive Games Foundation. We started a brand new work-study partnership with Cristo Rey High School for this school year. This week is actually the first week that we're having a cohort of 4 students work at our offices every single day. And we actually started a new grant-funded initiative to increase participation among Title I high schools in the Council's global education programming. So we're really excited and proud to report on that. And then some big milestones. I know I mentioned that this year is the 40th anniversary of the World Affairs Council and Bodine partnership, but it's also the 10th year of our Global Smarts Mentoring Program, which is a program that's on the middle school side of things and our Junior Model United Nations program. You can go ahead to the next slide. I'll now kind of just end on talking a little bit about our educational goals. It's so important to understand that we have these goals set to develop core global competencies within your students, and they're really embedded in all of the work that we do, whether that's choosing topics, assigning students to represent countries, or creating resources that supplement our programs. Those 4 goals for our high school programs are expanding your students' knowledge of world geography, world cultures, economies, languages, and international affairs. Also increasing your students' ability to understand and recognize emerging transnational issues from a range of different perspectives. Additionally, helping students to develop the critical thinking, problem solving, and leadership skills needed to succeed in a competitive global economy. And additionally, enhancing your students' opportunities to work creatively and collaboratively across local and global borders. So now I will turn things over to Eric, who's going to continue our discussion and talk a little bit about high school membership. Eric, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Kristen, and welcome to all of our faculty advisors, both live and recorded. Thank you all so much for joining us. We are really excited to kick off the 2021-2022 academic year and talk about a little bit of our programming at the high school level for this upcoming year. So as is consistent with last year, we're going to offer a high school membership, which confers access to all of our education programming, as well as some special opportunities to engage with our speakers through our speaker programs. And Haley will talk about speaker programs in just a little bit. But I do want to say that membership has opened on September 1st. So we're about 2 weeks in. Thank you to all the schools who have already registered. And we look forward to those schools who have not yet had a chance to register in the coming days and weeks. Per school cost is $275 per school, with homeschool groups of 5 or more at a $100 price point. I should note that all of our council programming will be offered both in person and virtually this year. I'll talk about that a little bit more in our COVID section coming up. But I do want to say that scholarships are available for all schools in need of financial assistance. That is Title I schools and non-federally designated Title I schools. We do have scholarships available. We just ask that you request those scholarships through Casey Trapp, our colleague here in the education department, and she will help you walk through that process of requesting scholarships. So our goal is to make sure that every student, regardless of whether they come from a Title I school or not, has access to our programming this year. That's not only financially, but also in a virtual and in-person format lens, just to make sure that students are able to access our programming regardless of whether they have financial need or whether they feel comfortable attending in person or not. So just a quick rundown of our programs here. Casey will actually go into these programs in depth slide by slide here in a couple of seconds. But we're really excited to bring back our Model Senate program this December. Early December 2021, we'll be running a Model Senate program where students will take on the roles of senators and expert witnesses, journalists, and actually committee co-chairs, which is our student leadership position this year, and tackle some really important issues that are making their way through Congress as we speak. We are also bringing back our student debate series. We'll be holding 2 student debates this year, one in October, coming up in late October, and then the second in February of 2022. Also, consistent with last year, we'll be doing our Global Economic Forum in early March. More information, Casey will give us more information on the Global Economic Forum starting in March. And then finally, our iThrive simulation programming. We'll show you all a trailer of what iThrive simulation programming looks like, but this is an ongoing availability. Essentially, you reach out to the council with interest in scheduling an iThrive simulation, and then we'll work with you to schedule your school based on your availability. We can run these pretty much at any time that is convenient for you. We just need about a week or so to get things prepared on the back end technically, and to get your students their roles and simulation credentials for that program. And again, Casey will cover that a little bit more in a couple of seconds. And of course, special access to our council speaker programs. Just because we've gone virtual with some of our council speaker programs since COVID, we still want our students to have access to these outstanding politicians, policymakers, journalists, academics, everybody that Haley is able to bring forth to us. We want to make sure that our students have the ability to hear from and ask questions directly to those expert speakers. So a little bit more information to come there. Quickly, I would like to talk about the faculty advisor role, because you are the essential piece of this puzzle. So as council staff, Kristen, Casey, and I develop and design these programs. We put together a lot of background research and information for your students. Of course, we do our student assignments as well, where we assign your students to various roles, whether that's an ambassador or a senator or an expert witness. Ultimately, we give a lot of this information to you, the faculty advisors, to work with our student groups. As Kristen mentioned, we work with hundreds, if not thousands, of students per year. And the only way we could do that is through the awesome work that our faculty advisors do in coordinating with their students. So we ask each member high school to have a minimum of one designated faculty advisor. Oftentimes, schools will come to us with 2 faculty advisors. That's perfect for us as well, but we do request a minimum of 1 faculty advisor. Faculty advisors serve in the position for 1 full academic year, and really your main roles as faculty advisor are to recruit students into the program, register students, and ultimately prepare them for the individual programs that they are registered for. So a lot of that is just facilitating the passing of documents, research, and various articles and resources for students to prepare. We strongly encourage, although it's not required, to establish an extracurricular World Affairs Club with bi-weekly or weekly meetings at your school, with the opportunity for student leadership positions as well. We have found in our work that this is the best way to have students committed to World Affairs programming throughout the year, to establish a weekly or bi-weekly club meeting where you can have consistent touch points with your students and make sure that they're getting prepared and that they know what opportunities are available to them. Haley will talk about those speaker programs that I've mentioned a couple of times now, but often there are multiple of those a month, and getting those opportunities in front of your students can be a little bit tricky if you don't have consistent meeting times with your students. So we strongly encourage a consistent meeting time with your students and student leadership positions within that club as well. It's a great opportunity for students to build up that college resume and fill out those college applications as well. So just a hint there for us. And then the benefits to you all as faculty advisors, you all get special access to our award-winning speaker events as well, inclusion and growing network of a diverse group of Philadelphia area educators, potential to enhance classroom curriculum with the council's experiential learning opportunities, and receive firsthand communication through the council's education e-newsletters on professional development opportunities and global education resources. We partner with a number of organizations like the Penn Museum and the Middle East Center, Temple University, amongst many others, many of whom offer professional development opportunities for teachers that you can get Act 48 credits for, or other necessary credits for teachers throughout the state of Pennsylvania or New Jersey. And the final thing that I'm going to talk about is our COVID-19 health and safety policies for this year. So as I mentioned, we are very hopeful and committed to returning to in-person programming this year. Of course, at the top of our list is the health and safety of students, of teachers like yourselves, and our staff. So no matter what happens this fall and this spring, we will offer at least all of our programs virtually as well as in person. The idea there is that any students who are unwilling or unable to attend our programs in person still have the opportunity to access our programming. So we're really committed to providing accessible programming to our students, but our preference, and from a survey of our faculty advisors last year and early this year, is that it's the preference of faculty advisors to return to in-person programming as much as possible. So when registering your students for in-person programming, you agree to adhere to our COVID-19 health and safety policies. We are going to continuously update those health and safety policies throughout the year to reflect local, state, and federal recommendations to mitigate the spread of COVID-19. But we are ensuring that our staff will be fully vaccinated. We are asking that all participants in in-person programming are vaccinated as well, that is students and teachers. And then of course, we'll have mask mandates, social distancing where possible, and other commonly used best practices that we've become, unfortunately, all too comfortable with or familiar with in the past couple of weeks and months and years now. One note that Kristen mentioned also, all of our programming will be spread out this year in a way where we're reducing the number of students per program day. So if you've been able to join us, like Minna, perhaps, who's been with us for about a decade now, you'll know that many of our programs in the past had 200, 300, maybe even 400 students on a single program day. Due to obvious COVID-19 health and safety policies, we're going to reduce that number to about 60, 70, or 80 students per day. Not only does that obviously reduce the risk in an in-person setting, but if necessary, we're able to transition that program from in-person to virtual kind of at the snap of a finger if needed. So a 400-person program no longer has to become a 400-person Zoom meeting. It becomes a much more manageable 60, 70, 75-person Zoom meeting where we'll do our breakout sessions and everything that you've come to grown and love about World Affairs Council programming. So we will have an opportunity at the end for questions. If you do have any questions about the Council's COVID health and safety policies, we will be happy to answer them. We will publish our official health and safety policies in the next couple of days and weeks. So you'll have a chance to review those at your leisure. But for now, I'm going to pass it over to Casey. Casey will tell us a little bit about our upcoming programs in a little bit more detail. Casey, would you like to go ahead?
Yeah, thanks, Eric. Welcome, everyone. It's good to see some familiar faces and some new faces. I was just telling Kristen and Eric before we started the meeting that it's really exciting to get started with the school year and, to talk about our programming and to think about, including everyone in our programming this year. So it's great to see everybody and be here with you today. All right, so first up for this school year, we're going to talk about Model Senate. So we're really excited to bring back Model Senate. The last time we did a Model Senate program was in spring 2020, right before we got into the thick of the COVID pandemic. So it feels good to bring it back and to be offering this program again to you all. Registration is now open. It opened this morning. So that's a great thing to announce here. And we will once again be simulating a subcommittee meeting of U.S. senators who are working to create positive solutions to ongoing issues of national and international concern. And this year, the focus is on science and technology. We have had an increasing number of program topics on technology in recent years, but we often don't have topics related to science or very sciencey topics. So we're, again, really excited to incorporate this very relevant and increasingly relevant topic of science into our program. So our two subcommittee topics for this program will be big tech and social media. So we're going to be looking at the regulation of big tech and social media, especially in the United States, but also abroad, looking at Section 230, which is a very highly contested topic related to this subcommittee topic. And we're also looking at carbon capture and sequestration, which is related to climate change and green technologies and the federal legislation surrounding those issues, and CCS, as we're abbreviating it because it is a long subcommittee topic to say. So I think that the students will be really interested in these two things, and they're very unique program topics, right? So I'm looking forward to it. I hope the students are as well. We're offering for now 2 in-person program dates and 1 virtual program date. We have tentative next to both of these things because they might be subject to change, but we're pretty confident that these will remain the same as they're listed here. So we have like early to mid-December, we're offering this program. Like Eric said, this isn't our pre-COVID traditional way of hosting these programs with hundreds of students in one place for one program day. We'll probably have about 80 students per program day, and then those students will be split up into the 2 subcommittees for each day. Then going down to the preparation level, this is one of our highest preparation levels for students for our programming. So the students have to commit to doing several hours of research ahead of time. They have to really know the role that they've been assigned. They have to really know the subcommittee topic that they've been assigned to. So that way, the day of, they're very confident in talking about the topic and discussing and debating the topic with the other students, and they can come up with the best final product as possible and for the end goal of the program as possible. Again, the per student cost is $55, but we have scholarships available to any schools in need of financial assistance. So there's about a month for the registration that's open. It's open today and it closes on October 15th. So just be aware that if you are interested in registering your students for this program, you should check out our website, which has descriptions of all of the student roles. So the students will either play the role of a senator, an expert witness, a journalist, or the student leader position for this program is a senator serving as a co-chair of their subcommittee. So there's more information on those student roles and responsibilities on our website, and you should check that out before registering your students and assigning them those roles. So essentially, before I ask Eric to move on to the next slide, the expert witnesses will be testifying to a group of senators and lending their expertise on whatever subcommittee they're in and the topic. And then the senators will use that knowledge and their testimonies to create a resolution and recommending what the US government should do to take action on that issue. And the journalists will be reporting on everything that day, and they'll report back to the larger group at the end of the day. All right. Next slide, please. Okay, and then our second big simulation program that we host every year this spring in March will be the Global Economic Forum, GEF. Our larger program topic this year is closing the digital divide. So we're looking at inequalities around the world as they relate to digital access and technology. So this will once again simulate a competition for funding from the World Bank. Students will come prepared to the program in teams with policy proposals based on one of the subcommittee topics that they are assigned to. During the day, they'll present their policy proposals to other students in their subcommittee rooms. And then at the end of the day, the finalists from each subcommittee will present to a panel of judges who represent the World Bank. And that panel will ultimately determine a winner of the fictitious funding to fund that policy that they're proposing throughout the day. So the subcommittee topics for this program are equality in education, telehealth, and financial inclusion, banking the unbanked. So these are some really unique program topics. They're subcommittee topics, in my opinion, and I think it'll be really interesting for the students to study them and research them and come up with solutions for them throughout the program. Again, we have 2 in-person program dates and a virtual program date. These are tentative, but we're pretty confident, again, that it will be in early March. And this is also a high preparation level for students. Just like Model Senate, they have to commit to doing several hours of research ahead of time. They have to know their assigned role and their assigned subcommittee topic. And registration will open for this right after winter break at the beginning of January 2022. Next slide. And we are so excited to bring back for the second year our student debate series. This was a new program that we created when we had to move all of our programming to the virtual format for last school year, and it was a great success. We heard a lot of great feedback from faculty advisors and students, and we really love this program. It's a little different than what we normally do with the simulation program. So registration is now open for the October student debate program. We'll have another program in February. Next month's program topic is 20 years later, the United States obligation to democracy in Afghanistan and around the world. So students will be divided into 2 teams, affirmative or opposed, And on either side of this larger topic of using Afghanistan kind of as a case study for whether the United States should utilize economic and military means to promote democracy around the world, how involved the United States should get in promoting democracy in other countries and in other countries' domestic affairs. So this is a really big topic for debate, and it's going to be an interesting one. This is a medium preparation level for students. So I think this is a great program, especially for our newer faculty advisors who are also just getting familiar with our programming, or for students who are just getting familiar with our programming and haven't participated in anything before. So they do have to do research, but it's not as heavy as Model Senate or GEF. So the students, have to have a good understanding of their assigned team, affirmative or opposed, for the debate. And they should, come prepared with some speaking notes so they can collaborate with their peers and come up with the statements. We set up this program as like an official or a formal academic debate. So, each team will work together. They present an opening statement, then they have time to confer with one another again, and they present rebuttals for one another. And then they once again come together and create a closing statement. So it actually goes by really fast. It's about an hour and a half for each debate program. But the students, especially when they come prepared with some great notes, they come up with some really impressive statements. And it's always an interesting debate. So the registration is open for that, and it closes Friday, October 8th. I should also mention that we are, for now, only planning to host an in-person program for the October debate series. But if there are, a good number of schools who are interested in participating but can't do in-person programs, we are willing to come up with a virtual offering for that program as well. So just know that. And as Kristen mentioned earlier, and as Eric mentioned earlier, we are once again partnering with iThrive Sim Programming, iThrive Games. We're really excited about this. It went so well last year, our partnership with them, and they've added another scenario since last year. So we now have 3 program scenarios to offer to our member high schools. Again, this is a really unique and interesting way to expose students to simulation programming through, a game-based interface. I think it's very intuitive, the way that the interface is designed. I've played a couple of these myself now. And it's fast paced. It really gets students to think on their feet. And I think that the emphasis on developing communication and interpersonal skills is really beneficial for students. We offered this during our summer program for students. We did the Leading Through Crisis scenario. And I think it was one of their favorite activities throughout the week. This is also a great first time program with us. Again, if you're joining us as a new member school or a new faculty advisor, it's light preparation level. So prior to the participating in the simulation, the students are only required to read their character sheet. Teachers, there are additional resources that iThrive provides if you would like to increase the preparation level for you and your students a little bit and really utilize some of these pre-programmed resources. But if you don't have the time, or if you're interested in just participating in the simulation, it really is light preparation level. And it is free with a high school membership. So there is no per student cost for this program. And we are so flexible in scheduling this according to your schedule and the student's schedule. Another plus to this program is that it's 6 students per program. So this is a great way, if it's like an after school club and you just have, a couple students who are interested in participating, this could be something cool that you do after school one day. You can incorporate it into your class if you would like. So this is, I think, it's more flexible than our typical programming, which is awesome. And I think we are going to view a trailer for the newest scenario that they just offered, Follow the Facts. So Eric, I believe you'll share that with us. Thank you.
New Orleans is in the middle of hurricane season. A new tropical storm watch is being issued for the area. Florida is expected to take the brunt of the storm, with New Orleans receiving wind and rain, but no major damage expected. St. Bernard Parish and the extended New Orleans metro area are mourning the passing of 2 children. Both were admitted to St. Bernard Parish Hospital with similar symptoms of fever, headache, nausea, and hallucinations. The community is on edge, fearing the worst. You are a member of the news team of one of the local newspapers. The residents look to the newspaper to provide critical information. The death of the 2 children is a major news story. The news editor is bringing the news team together to investigate the cause of death of the children and ensure that the public is informed and can take the proper precautions to keep their children and themselves safe. You are on tight deadlines to get the news out. Each of the reporters will team up with another reporter on the news team to chase leads and contact sources. As reporters, you will be challenged to decide who to contact to get the best information and at times which questions to ask. You will get information from various sources through decision points, news articles, files, and chirps. The news editor will bring the full team together at crucial times to discuss the information you have each received and for the news team to decide what information to post. You need to be aware of any bias, tone, and motivation in the information you receive from various sources. You need to ensure you present the correct facts, statistics, and names in any chirps or articles that you post. The public expects you to be accurate and timely in your postings of chirps and articles. Your goal is to maintain public trust in the newspaper. Keep a watch on the chirp feed and the public trust meter to see how the public is responding to your reporting. Go out and get the story on the cause of the 2 children that passed, and keep your eye on the tropical storm watch. The storm could turn at any moment.
Thanks for playing that, Eric. As you guys can tell, this is a really exciting program. It's very fast-paced. The Twitter feed or chirp feed is a really cool feature. And I think that especially the follow the facts scenario, the one that we just watched, is adaptable to a lot of different school subjects, right? So it touches on the subjects of digital literacy and media literacy. So it could be adapted to a variety of classrooms as well. All right, next slide. Okay, so I will now hand it over to our Vice President of Programs, Haley Boyle. The high school membership with the council provides special access for teachers and students to our speaker events at the council. Haley's going to tell you a little bit more about our speaker events in general, some opportunities that we have coming up for teachers and students, and just give you a sneak peek of what we have coming up at the council in the next couple of weeks. So without further ado, Haley.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Casey, for the introduction. It's nice to see you all. I recognize some of you, and I'm looking forward to working with those of you who haven't yet had a chance to meet in person as well. So before I begin, I'm going to drop a link into the chat, which will direct you to our speaker events page on the council's website. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of our upcoming programs, but the way to learn about majority of our events will be to kind of keep an eye on the communications that the education team will send to you as programs are confirmed, and to also, peruse the offerings on our website. So one of the first programs that I'd like to bring to your attention is taking place in a little under 2 weeks. We have a program, a webinar program titled The Global Movement for Black Lives, where we have invited several panelists who represent other countries around the world to talk about how the Black Lives Matter movement has taken shape in other places outside of the United States, and what the differences are on the ground versus how it's kind of developed here in the United States. We also have Christy Aletto, who is a member of the 6ABC Action News team here in Philadelphia, moderating that discussion. And following the main webinar, we're putting together what we've called briefing rooms. They're similar in the in-person programming days where we had the opportunity to have receptions with some of our speakers and allow students and members of the council to meet with our panelists and meet with our speakers. We now have found that providing kind of a smaller curated briefing room gives the same sense of, you know, being able to network and meet with some of our speakers and ask some additional questions that, you know, a lot of our folks weren't necessarily getting in a straight webinar. For this program in particular, we're putting together a student briefing room, allowing some of our students and faculty members the opportunity to meet with our speakers following the webinar. And again, to, you know, ask some further questions and pick their brains a little bit more and kind of have that face-to-face interaction despite us all being behind our computer screens. So for any of these programs, the events are complimentary for both students and educators. And if you're interested in registering a group of students or yourself or some of your colleagues for any of these programs, feel free to reach out to the education team at the council and they'll make sure to get any students or yourself registered for these events. For the student briefing room for this program in particular, it's going to be a little bit more limited capacity. We're looking at probably 20 to 30 folks, and it'll be registration on a first come, first serve basis. So if you think this sounds like something that some of your students might be interested in, yes, it will be recorded. Thank you for that question, Corinne. And again, most of our webinars are recorded and will be available usually about 48 hours after a program. So if you want to use the recording in, you know, curriculum or at a World Affairs Club meeting, you're welcome to do so. Those recordings are posted up on our YouTube channel following our program days. So as I was mentioning, with the student briefing room, registration will be on a first come, first serve basis. We're looking to kind of keep it a little bit smaller so that it still has that intimate feeling. And so if you're interested in registering yourself or some of your students, please get in touch with Casey, Eric, and Kristen. Eric, next slide. Thank you. So then in October, we have a program with our President Emerita, Buncie Ellis Churchill, who served as the council's president and CEO a little over 15 years ago. And she'll be coming to speak to our audience about her recent trip with the 2021 JINSA Generals and Admirals delegation. She had the opportunity to travel with some high-ranking U.S. generals and admirals to Israel to meet with Israeli leadership and Prime Minister Naftali Bennett. She'll be talking a little bit about the most recent rise in conflict between Israel and Hamas and kind of where do we go from here, right? This program, we won't have a briefing room following that opportunity, but there are two ways to register. There is an in-person registration component and an online live stream component. There's no limitation on how many registrants we can have for the online live stream. But for our in-person component, similar to kind of what Eric was talking about with some of our COVID health and safety protocols, we're limiting the in-person audience to around 35 or 40 folks, just to make sure that we are at reduced capacity and those in attendance will have to be vaccinated. The program will be held at the council's office space, which is now at One Penn Center. And then the online component will be a link that will be distributed and live streamed on our YouTube channel. Eric, next slide. And then the last program that I wanted to elevate here is taking place on November 2nd. This will be a conversation with the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Michelle Bachelet, who's also a former president of Chile. We, over the course of this year, hosted a program series called Beyond Our Borders, Spotlight Chile, where we looked at a number of different industries, topics, and spoke with a variety of experts from the country of Chile. Our keynote session will feature remarks by High Commissioner Bachelet. She'll talk both about her experience in the UN as UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, but also her time as President of Chile, and kind of what has inspired her to follow a path into the UN with a focus on ensuring human rights for people around the world. This program in particular, we think may be of interest to many students who have either participated in the past in our junior model UN, or who also participate in a number of our other simulation programs where there are, multilateral simulations, and the idea of getting the students to hear directly from somebody who, whose job it is to kind of be that person, that leader, right? That they would be simulating in some of their programming. This will take place again on Zoom, so complimentary to student groups and faculty members. And again, if you're interested in registering for this program, you can reach out to the education team. This program also will be recorded. So if, at that, since it is 11 a.m. to 12 p.m., which would be in the middle of a school day, just note that, if that timing doesn't work out for you or your students, there will be a recording if you'd like to share that at a later date. Eric, next slide. So those are only a handful of the programs that we will be offering this fall. We do confirm events on a rolling basis. And so while there's a listing of, do you mind pausing? Yep, thank you, Eric. While there is a listing on the website right now of our current offering, we do have other programs that get confirmed on a rolling basis. And so continue to keep your eye out for those communications from the education team and opportunities to register yourself or your students or your colleagues for these programs. The last piece that I kind of wanted to share with everyone here is that we, as a way to try to further engage students in our programming in this virtual environment, we decided pretty early on in the pandemic to invite a student for each program to come on screen and ask a question at the top of our audience Q&A. And it allows us to highlight the work that we do with our students. It allows them to interact, a little bit more personally with our speakers, and gives them the opportunity to learn a little bit about the topic ahead of time, and then, ask these experts and policymakers kind of whatever question is on their mind, right? I think a lot of the times I've been so impressed by the students who have taken us up on this offer. They think about the world a little differently than many of us, right? And they're asking really hard-hitting questions of our speakers, and I've always been really impressed by that. I know, AJ, you've sent us a few students from Girard College, and we've worked with some of our other high school members and some of our college students as well. So I have an example here. We're not going to play this whole video. This is available on our YouTube channel, and if you're interested in kind of watching some additional examples of the student questioner role, you're welcome to check that out on our YouTube channel, but wanted to just kind of show you an example or two here. So we're going to watch a minute or so. You'll see a slide come up of what the program topic was, and then you'll see the student questioner. And we're going to, Eric, after the second one, if you want to just hit pause.
Today we've got Kylie Williams, who is a student at St. Joseph's University. We know Kylie because she volunteers her time as a mentor to middle schoolers in our region who compete and succeed, taking the place of countries in a Junior Model United Nations program. So rest assured, there's a bunch of 12 and 13-year-olds out there working on these problems using technology. Kylie is one of their mentors. So Kylie, turn it over to you. What question do you have for Adrian today?
Great, thank you so much. So COVID has an extraordinarily global experience because so many countries have been affected. You've mentioned how COVID has affected government structures and policies, but how do you think that global diplomacy has been changed because of COVID? And do you think that these changes will carry forward even when we move on from COVID as an issue and address problems such as climate change, you guys about, or that may not as wide an effect as COVID?
Well, I think that the sort of paradox that which
all right, let's move on to our audience questions portion of our program. We've got Jimmy Fee, who's a junior at Temple University, very interested in world affairs, maybe can help us solve some of these problems as he works through his career. And he also mentors middle school students who are participating in our Junior Model UN competition in May. Jimmy, what's your question for Chris today?
Good afternoon, Chris. Thank you for speaking with us today. With my work with the council, I got to actually do some of the preparation for this event, looking into some of the technical issues like cluster munitions and drones. And one of the things I came across that you kind of touched on a little in the beginning was a Brown University's paper from the Watson Institute that discussed the relationship between a military's rules of engagement and civilian casualties they cause. And I wanted to ask if you guys have noticed the same trends, which you did touch on a little bit, and specifically what changes militaries can make to the rules of engagements to mitigate civilian casualties, and if you've had conversations with these militaries about that very thing.
Yeah, it is a great question, Jimmy.
So if you want to pause us there, Eric. So, these are two examples of some of our students who have had the opportunity to serve in this student questioner role. When a student is interested in a specific program topic and wants to kind of be able to ask a question like this, what I often do is reach out to that student, send them some materials to read on the topic, the bios of the speakers, that allows them to feel like they're preparing for this role, right? And then I work with them on a prep call in order to kind of develop their question. More often than not, they come to those prep calls with like 3 or 4 questions already written. And then it's more just about, fine tuning and helping them kind of with the structure and giving them the key, right? So saying, I'll message you at this time to come on screen, you'll ask your question, and kind of giving them that background. So if any of you at any point when you're kind of looking at some of these speaker events, if you think that there's a particular topic that might be of interest to some of your students, please reach out to both me and my colleagues in education. There's plenty of opportunities this fall, and there will be additional opportunities as we move forward, both back into in-person programming and continuing with some virtual programming. So just encourage you to give this opportunity to some of your students. And Kristen, Yes, a great way for schools and students to be highlighted within the wider network, and it's a great resume building opportunity for the right students. Exactly. So, and you know, giving students the chance to engage directly with some of these world leaders and policymakers. So at this point, I will turn it back over to my colleagues in education and just thank you again for your time and for your leadership with your students. It's really wonderful to see so many of our young folks who are engaged in world affairs and interested in these topics.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Haley. We're going to open it up for questions in just a few seconds. Just want to highlight some upcoming events, programs, and deadlines for you all. On Friday, October 8th is our registration deadline for this student debate program, the October debate program, which will take place later in October. Model Senate registration opened today and will stay open until Friday, October 15th. The Global Movement for Black Lives speaker program is September 27th. We have both the speaker event and the student briefing room opportunity for that program. If you're interested, please feel free to reach out to myself or Casey or Haley, and we could do, well, myself or Casey, and then we can connect you with Haley if needed. And then finally, our iThrive Sim programming, which has open registration now and is available for registration on a rolling basis throughout this year. Thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate all of your attention and your work with students. I'd be happy to open it up to the floor now for any questions that you may have for the education team or Haley, if we still have Haley with us, who can answer any questions about our upcoming speaker program. So I'm going to stop my screen share, and if anybody has any questions, feel free to unmute yourselves and ask, or you could type it directly